This is the Content Marketing Podcast, episode number 105, 5 Surprising Facts About B2B Content Marketing. Hello and welcome to the Content Marketing Podcast. This is the show where we help you attract and retain business through the power of quality content. I'm your host, Rachel Parker of Resonance Content Marketing, and today is January 15th, 2015. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for episode number 105 of the Content Marketing Podcast. Just a reminder, we are live on iTunes and on Stitcher, so if you're listening to this episode on the blog, you can click on over and subscribe so you'll get new episodes automatically delivered to your listening device of choice. And if you use a different app for your podcast listening pleasure, we also have an RSS feed, and I will provide that link in the blog post. This month is all about B2B content marketing here at Resonance, that is business-to-business marketing. And last week, we addressed the question about whether content marketing really matters for B2B marketers. If you happen to miss that episode, feel free to click on over to iTunes or to Stitcher or to the RSS feed and get all caught up. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 surprising facts about B2B content marketing. But first, it's time to check in with our news feed for this week's rundown of news you can use. First up on our news feed, we have some exciting news out of LinkedIn. LinkedIn has announced that it is opening up its publishing platform to all English-speaking countries. So the ability to basically blog through your LinkedIn profile will now be available to all LinkedIn users in English-speaking countries around the globe. And I just want to mention, I highly recommend taking advantage of this publishing feature on LinkedIn. I've been using it for several months now. To repurpose my blog posts. So I publish at least once a week, sometimes more, and it never fails. I always get some followers out of it. I always get some really good comments, some really good conversations start up, and my follower count is actually above 900, which is wow, and those are people that I would not have contact with if it had not been for LinkedIn's publishing platform. So if you are not already involved in LinkedIn publishing and if you are in an English-speaking country that is not the United States, you now have access to it. I highly encourage you to start utilizing it. It's a tremendously helpful platform for broadening your exposure and really expanding your thought leadership role. To get started, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the homepage on LinkedIn, and if you look in the status window, you will see a little pencil icon there. And if you click on that pencil icon, that will take you to the page where you can go ahead and create your LinkedIn-based content. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of that. Great resource. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, a new report is covering the topic of video SEO. This is a new report by Conductor, and the title is The Untapped Video SEO Opportunity. So SEO meaning, of course, search engine optimization. And they have an interesting piece of data here. They say that video will drive 79% of all internet traffic by 2018, which is absolutely astounding if you think about the volume of traffic in the internet as a whole. Almost 80% of that is going to be video driven by 2018. And they go on to assert that most brands are actually underperforming in this area. They're not taking full advantage of the opportunity that video offers to drive traffic to their site. So they have produced a report, and this is actually part 1 of a 3-part series. Now, the name of the series is The Marketer's Guide to Video SEO. And again, the title of this first part is The Untapped Video SEO Opportunity. I just downloaded it myself, and it's got some great information in there, and parts 2 and 3 purport to be equally valuable and insightful. So I encourage you to check that out, and I will provide the link in the blog post for this episode so that you can download your own copy and also benefit from those insights. Okay, our content hit of the week it's a fun little infographic called Content Marketers Quit Selling Like It's 2004. And this is a post by Veronica Maria Jarski on the Marketing Profs blog. Veronica highlights an infographic by a company called Captura, and it speaks to the practice of people who are either cranking out content for content's sake or even worse, using content, quote unquote content, as basically a sales platform to put out their marketing message in the name of content. But what makes it interesting is they provide some very good data, which is based on some Forrester research, Forrester being very highly regarded research company, and they highlight some of the struggles that content marketers are facing in 2015 and how they're addressing those struggles. So it is an interesting read, and they kind of wrap it up in the guise of this whole infomercial 2004 gotta buy now kind of thing, and it's kind of cheesy in a good way. So I highly recommend that you check it out, and I will provide the link in the blog post for this episode. Okay, that is it for this week's news feed. If you stumble across something you think might be of interest to your fellow content marketers, please shoot it on over to us so that we can share, and I will provide that contact info at the end of the podcast. Now it's time for this week's Spotlight segment. We're going to take a look at 5 surprising facts about B2B content marketing. First of all, just an observation, as I shared, the month of January is all about B2B content marketing here at Resonance. So I've been doing my research, of course, to keep up with what's going on. And there's actually not much out there specifically about B2B content marketing, which is shocking given the huge number of organizations that are in that B2B sphere, but there are not a lot of people talking specifically about B2B content marketing. So let's see if we can fix that. But one outfit that is talking about it is the Content Marketing Institute. They have published a study that was co-published by Marketing Profs, and it's called B2B Content Marketing, 2015 Benchmarks, Budgets, and Trends. And this is specific to North America. Basically, it encapsulates the results of a survey that involved 5,000 marketers in 25 industries in 109 countries, both from for-profit and nonprofit organizations. Now, in this report, they do focus on the B2B marketers from North America. And you know what? I'm not sure about what happened to that data from other countries. I'll have to hit up Joe Polizzi and ask him where we might be able to find that, because that would be interesting to see as well. Anyway, it's a great report. I will, of course, provide the link in this in the blog post for this episode. But for the purposes of today's podcast, I wanted to highlight the 5 points in this data report that I found the most striking, and what this info implies for us as we head into 2015. The first fact that struck me, the first result from this survey, was 35% of those marketers said they have a documented content marketing strategy. 48% say they have a content marketing strategy, but it is not documented. Now, this was especially intriguing for me because if you go back to December, and if you were following the podcast and the blog and all the content that we produced back in December, you'll recall the entire month was all about strategy, and you probably got sick of hearing me harp on the topic of strategy. But it is important, and we covered reasons why it's so important to have a documented content marketing strategy that is very much accessible to the team and well thought out. It keeps you focused. It facilitates bringing new team members and possibly vendors on board. Gives you a written record of all your goals and benchmarks so you can track your progress. Tremendous amount of benefits to be had from just simply creating a documented content marketing strategy. But if you look at these results, just a little over a third of these marketers who responded have done that. 35% have no documentation, or 35% have a documented content marketing strategy, and 48% say, well, we have one, but it's just not documented. So what this means for us, I would say from a competitive standpoint, if you do have a documented strategy and it is a well thought out and well crafted document that everyone has access to, you're going to have certain advantages that your competitors do not. Those competitors who do not have the documented content marketing strategy. So under action items for this fact, I would say, number one, if you do not have a documented content marketing strategy, get one. And a good place for you to start would be to go back and listen to our podcasts from December. And also, we had a webinar specifically on content marketing strategy toward the end of December. And if you would like the link to that, just hit me up on social media or shoot me an email, and I will be happy to send that on to you. But, it's still January, so you still have time to get that strategy together. And then if you already have a strategy in place, make sure that you respect it. Make sure that you respect that document. Make sure it is in a place that is accessible by the entire team. Make sure you have a feedback mechanism in place. Make sure that when people have questions about your strategy, that those questions get answered promptly. Really show your strategy the respect that it deserves, because it is offering you, it is giving you a huge leg up on quite a few of your competitors. Okay, fact number 2 that I found quite compelling from this research study was that 70% of content marketers are B2B content marketers, are creating more or significantly more content than they did last year. 70% are increasing the amount of content that they produce, either somewhat or significantly. And this really highlights what's going on in the content marketing world in general. Not just for B2B, that space is becoming much more crowded. People who never thought they would become brand publishers are stepping into the content marketing sphere, and that absolutely applies to B2B businesses. So our challenge is that the pool is getting more crowded, and the sheer amount of content that is out there makes our job much more challenging, because our task is to break through the noise and to reach our target audience and deliver value-based content to them. And just to give you an example, just to focus on how hugely crowded this space is becoming, I did a blog post earlier this week about quality. I know I was talking about this very phenomenon, this hugely crowded content marketing sphere. So I did a Google search on how to get more followers on Facebook. That exact phrase, how to get more followers on Facebook, and it turned up 201,000 hits. Now, the interesting thing is, when I took the screenshot of that search result to share in my blog post, when it wound up in the blog post, it was a little bit blurry because it was a smaller graphic that I had blown up. So I did the Google search again 1 day later. 1 day later, my search results jumped from 201,000 to 203,000 hits on that exact phrase. So in 24 hours, 2,000 additional pieces of content were uploaded or published around how to get more followers on Facebook. And that just illustrates that this is just the blob that ate Chicago. I mean, this content marketing sphere is becoming so hugely crowded. Everyone is getting on board. And as a result of that, standing out is going to be even more of a challenge as we enter 2015 and more players enter the playing field. So for us as content marketers who have been at this for a while, thank you, newbies, bow down to us, please. No, seriously, we need to up our game. We have been producing quality content, yes, we have good reputations out there, and we have built those foundations that keep coming back to us, but we still need to reach those same people as people who are just getting into this sphere. And as I posted in my blog this week, quality is going to be huge in 2015. So we need to work on being smarter and being more innovative in how we approach our content marketing. So your action item for this factoid, I would say, go ahead and get your team together and brainstorm on how you can serve your audience better. Just get together, go up to erase the whiteboard, clean slate, and just write the question, how can we serve our audience better through content? And then just start kicking out ideas, topics to address, the style that you use to present your content, the media, the tactics that you're using. You get together with your team and really start cranking out those ideas about how you can distinguish yourself and offer what no one else does within your industry. The third fact from this study that I found particularly interesting is that the average, this will knock your socks off. Get ready for this. The average number of content marketing tactics that these B2B businesses use, are you ready for this? 13. The average B2B content marketer uses 13 different tactics. And I will, if you don't believe me, I'm going to read you the list right now. That list includes social media content other than blogs, e-newsletters, articles on your website, blogs, in-person events, case studies, videos, illustrations/photos, white papers, online presentations or webinars, infographics, research reports, and microsites. Wow. I mean, I get tired just reading that list. That is so, there are so many pieces and so many in-depth pieces. I mean, you can't crank out a research report, on the fly, something that you write on your tablet on the way to the office in the train. These are some really beefy, in-depth tactics that people are using. So for an action item for this fact, I would say, think about expanding your repertoire of tactics. Think about what more you can do. Now is the time. I talk to a lot of people say, oh yeah, we've been wanting to do webinars. We've had this white paper on our minds for the longest time. We just can't get around to it. There's always something more pressing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is, other B2B marketers, probably some of whom are your competition, they are broadening their scope. They are going there and stretching their limits and getting into, webinars and research reports and white papers. So your dilemma here is get in now or get left behind. And I'm thinking you do not want to get left behind. So now is the time to start thinking about how you and your team can expand your repertoire and add more tactics to your content marketing strategy. The fourth particularly interesting fact that I got from this report is when B2B content marketers rated the most effective tactic, topping that list of most effective tactics were live events. So the question on the survey was, how effective are the following tactics that you use? And they presented these folks with a list of different options. And the percentages that I'm going to read you a couple of them, represent marketers who rated each tactic as a 4 or a 5 on a 5-point scale, where 5 equals very effective and 1 equals not at all effective. So these percentage points have to do with the marketers who rated these tactics a 4 or a 5 on that 5-point scale. 69% cited in-person events such as conferences and workshops as in that very effective range, and 65% cited webinars and webcasts in that very effective range. So those are both live events, right? Those aren't download and use on demand or take in or read on demand. And I think that's so interesting because our culture is so obsessed with everything on demand. I don't want to have to wait for a slot to be able to watch a TV show. Thank you very much. I don't have to wait for a song to come on the radio to enjoy it. I want my content when I want it and how I want it. So it's interesting that live events that are tied to a specific time frame are so effective. Maybe we're swinging the other way. Maybe we've gotten so into the on-demand culture that we crave that real-time interaction. Maybe that's becoming a novelty. I'm not sure. If you have any thoughts on that, I would love to hear them. Anyway, your action items for this piece of information is to think about how you can leverage that interest in live events, either in person or online. If you've been thinking about webinars, is it time to start adding those to your repertoire? And if you already are doing webinars, is it time to start thinking about an in-person event? Putting together a one-day workshop, or if you're feeling ambitious, maybe even a 2-day conference. It all depends where your primary clients are, how difficult it is for them to get to you, and if it sounds like a lot of work, it absolutely is. I mean, putting on a conference, is a tremendous amount of work, but as these results testify, they are tremendously effective in reaching your target audience and enhancing those relationships. So if you're feeling a little apprehensive about getting into that live area, especially with in-person events, I encourage you to just start thinking about it. You don't have to commit to anything. Just think about what if we were to put on a conference. What would that entail? How could we do it? And then just let yourself kind of play with that idea a little bit. And it might wind up being a half-day workshop or whatever you wind up doing. But just open yourself up to those possibilities, because those live events are really what B2B content marketers are finding the most effective. Okay, and finally, the fifth piece of information that I found particularly surprising and interesting was that, now the first part is not particular news, the most effective social media platform for B2B content marketers is LinkedIn. No big surprise there. The number 2 social media platform for them is Twitter, and even bigger surprise, Facebook ranked number 6 on that list of most effective social media platforms. So rated on that same 5-point scale that I talked about earlier, the percentage of marketers who rated these platforms on a 4 or a 5 in terms of effectiveness, LinkedIn came in at 63%, so pretty healthy majority there. Twitter was second. Third was YouTube. Fourth was SlideShare. Interesting. Fifth was Vimeo. Vimeo, yes, the other YouTube, if you want to think of it that way, it's that other video marketing platform. And then Facebook came in at only 32%. So only 32% of B2B content marketers found Facebook to be in that 4 to 5 effective range. And just below Facebook are Pinterest and Instagram. So Facebook barely beat out Pinterest. Interesting. So, when we think about this in terms of action items, when we look at data like this, it's so important to keep firmly in mind that every organization is different, and you need to know what is most effective for reaching your target audience. So just because, Facebook only got 32% doesn't mean you have to completely get rid of your Facebook presence. But if you haven't lately, go back and look at those analytics and see how those social platforms are working for you. Because you can't argue with data. It will show you plain as day in black and white what is delivering for you. And what you need to do in terms of your strategy and your tactics is to make sure that you are devoting the bulk of your time, your effort, and just your resources towards those platforms that are delivering for you. Okay, so in sum, after, looking at this report, I gotta say, folks, holiday's over and it's time to hit the ground running, because 2015 is going to be that year. You've got to eat your Wheaties. You've got to take your vitamins. You've got to get ready. Get ready to hit it with everything you've got. And I'm not necessarily talking about working harder. I'm not talking about adding another 2 or 3 hours to your workday. I'm talking about working smarter. Stay on top of what's going on. Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open, both internally and externally. And be flexible and be ready to be responsive. I think those are going to be the keys to success for B2B content marketers in 2015. As I said, I will post a link to this Content Marketing Institute report in the blog post for this episode, and I highly recommend that you check it out and draw your own conclusions and then develop your own action steps for the insights that you find there. If you have any questions about what we just talked about, or if you want to join the conversation, I would love to hear from you, and I will provide that that contact information at the end of the podcast. Now it's time for our content marketing tip of the week. For today's tip, I want to talk a little bit more about LinkedIn. In the report we just talked about, no fewer than 63% of B2B marketers cited LinkedIn as that highly effective platform, and it topped the list in terms of effective social media platforms. And I just want to talk a little bit more about how to use LinkedIn. Yes, it is true. You need to establish your company page and maintain a strong brand presence on LinkedIn. But I find where LinkedIn really shines is in the person-to-person interaction. So in addition to your brand presence, make sure that your team members and really everybody in the company who is on LinkedIn is playing a role in helping you to build that strong identity. I would encourage, sharing content, interacting with others' content, leaving, liking and commenting and sharing. Also participating in groups can be very, very powerful. I apologize for the background noise. I've got the dogs locked out of the room and they're trying to get in. Sorry about that. But really encourage that participation among the individuals in your organization. Make sure they are taking your brand presence to the next level and really being ambassadors on this very powerful social media platform. Okay, campers, that is it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. Certainly enjoyed our time together. If you like what you've heard today, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes or on Stitcher or via our RSS feed. And if you really like what you've heard, please leave us a quick review on iTunes. I would so appreciate it. For more information about content marketing, you're welcome to visit our website at resonancecontent.com, where you'll also find links to our pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and other social networks. And if you have any feedback or any ideas to share with us, I encourage you to contact me via one of those methods. Also, I want to invite you to check out our monthly webinar series. On the last Wednesday of every month, we have a free VIP webinar, and the next one will be about, surprise, B2B content marketing. It's going to be on Wednesday, January the 28th at 12 p.m. Central Time, and if you can't join us live, we will be recording it, and everyone who registers will get a link to that replay. So I encourage you, even if you can't be there live, to register. And you can do that at resonancewebinar.com, resonancewebinar.com. I would love to have you join us. As always, I'd like to leave you with a quote, and today's comes from Amazon's Jeff Bezos. He once said, quote, "A brand for a company is like a reputation for a person. You earn reputation by trying to do hard things well." Unquote. Trying to do hard things well. If that does not sum up the task of a content marketer, I do not know what does. Again, this is Rachel Parker with Resonance Content Marketing. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you again next week. Take care.